So there are all different things that you can use for printmaking, and now that we have reached the middle school, it's time to start thinking about printmaking, and not so much a realistic way where we're trying to create something specific, but we're going to try and do a little bit of an abstract print. To do that, we're going to use a piece of linoleum, and we're going to make that the surface that we print on. I have some pieces of paper that are just about the same size as my linoleum. And then I'm going to need the traditional printmaking supplies. I've got a roller, I've got some printing ink, and I have a squirt bottle with just a little bit of water in case the surface dries up while I'm trying to work on it. I also have some stencils here, and I'm going to show you what those are used for in just a minute. You can use any kind of stencil, just a plastic stencil. For this, it's called a monoprint, which means we're going to make one picture out of our print. Printmaking is traditionally something that's used to make a series, which means we make the same picture over and over again. But in our case, we're actually going to just make one. It's going to be one singular and unique item. You can see that this printmaking ink hasn't been used in a while, so it's kind of separated here on my printing surface. That's all right. I'm just going to mix it together with my roller as I go. Again, this is a one-shot deal, so we're going to make whatever surface of this print on my linoleum. I cannot say that word. We're going to make whatever shows up on my linoleum surface here as the print that it's going to be. So now that's red. That's not very exciting. Let's see what else we can add to it to make it a little more interesting. What happens if I press one of these plastic stencils into the surface here and then remove it? What's going to happen? It makes a little bit of an interesting texture. Let's try to roll something else on here and see what happens. So what you're doing is you're basically just creating a picture on the piece of linoleum that you're then going to pull up with the print. I wonder what happens if I do this. Let's put this down here. Roll over there and see what I get. Oh, there we go. That's interesting. All right, let's pull that print. It's called pulling a print when you pull a piece of paper off of the surface. So take the paper that you have. Before you print, make sure you've got your name on that paper. And you're going to lay it right down on the surface of the linoleum. Let's press lightly so it's all stuck to the ink. And now when I pull this off, you're going to see that picture is transferred to this side. Yeah, it's interesting. Keep printing, keep adding layers to your project, but be careful in the colors that you choose, because the colors tend to mix together as you're working. So if you remember, if you're working in some sort of paint and you're washing all of your brushes off in the same container, you know that lovely brown water surface that you get? If you don't like all of that brown color, then you probably don't want to mix all of the colors together at the same time. That's not saying that you can't mix opposite colors, because sometimes opposite colors make, you know, an interesting surface, but you should probably pay attention to which opposite colors you're using to decide, you know, do I really want this to blend completely? What if I don't want it to blend completely? Maybe I can get it to just blend a little bit. The more you mix and the more you mess with the surface as you're applying your paints or your inks, the more they're going to blend together. Let's see what the circle thing is going to do for me. It's a little thick, so I'm not getting the roller down into the linoleum surface as much as I'd like, but I think this might be interesting. Let's give it a try and see what happens. Oh, very nice. Let's print that one and see what we've got. I'd like you to try 5 or 6 of these. Some of you are going to find that this is really cool and you just love messing with the paint and making interesting color combinations. And others of you will, of course, just like every other art project, you might not find this as interesting as others, but we're going to give it a try and see what we can come up with. Let's see how many prints you can make that you're happy with. You are definitely going to have a few that you're not happy with, but that's all right. Remember, you're only printing one print at a time, so be a little stingy with the amount of ink that you're adding. You do not need to have this blobbing all over the place. You need just a thin coat, so a tiny amount each time is plenty. I want to repeat that letter stencil so you can see what happened here. The letters pressed into the surface. Even though I rolled on top of them this way, it did not really transfer any ink into the letter stencils, but it did press down onto the surface. So what will happen is I will remove some of that ink that I already had on there, and you'll leave a little bit of that design behind. Don't forget, every single print must have your name on the back before you pull it. It's too hard to add it after you've already pulled it. Can't write on the back of a wet project. Let's see what this looks like. Ta-da! Alright, let's give these a try and see what you can come up with. We do have a plan for all of these later. We'll let you know what that is going to be later. Bye.